photography. The interview with Mr. Paul Barber in my last episode was quite long, so I only showed a fraction of it, but in this video we are going to show the full interview. Thank you for agreeing to see me.
That's okay.
How did you get into photography?
Right. It was when I was still at school, actually. I'd done my exams at the end of school and I went to see the careers officer. And they said, because I was interested in art, my best subject at school was always art, there was a photographer in the town who wanted a photographic assistant. So while I was waiting for my results to come through, I thought, well, I'll go and give it a go. So I went on a month's trial at a photographic studio called Garfield Snow, and after the month I just loved it and they wanted me to stay, so that was it. I just went straight from school into photography as an assistant, and then that's all I've ever done.
When my dad first showed me a 1920 box camera, I asked, where's the screen? With your cameras, how did you know your photos would turn out okay with no screen or automatic focus? Did it take long to set the camera up?
Right, well this is a typical camera that I used to use. I'll probably use this for most of the time. And you had to look through there. If you have a little look down there. Right, so that square you can see there is what you get on your photograph. So you had to compose, yeah, I can look at you down. You had to get in the camera, you had to compose exactly what you wanted in that little square. Right? So then you had to set the speed that you were going to take the picture and the aperture. And then you had to focus with this little knob there. So once you focused on the subject and it was clear, you press the button and that took the photograph. But then, because there was film in there, you have to wind the film on to the next shot and then you're ready to take another photograph. So it was the skill in actually seeing what you wanted in that little square and then taking the photograph that made you know really that you got what you wanted. Because there was nothing else. That was photography. You had to look through a viewfinder to see what you wanted to photograph. So yeah, but once you were used to it, you'd set the camera up to what you were doing. For instance, in here, once I'd set that aperture and speed, you just carry on taking pictures the same setting. You just have to focus. But if you needed flash, that was a flash. So then you would connect your flash gun to there. There's a little thing there. Connect the flash gun to there, and then when you take the photograph, the flash goes off. But you have to set the flash gun as well manually. It's not automatic. So that's that bit.
That's a big flash gun.
It's a big camera as well. Heavy.
When I take a photo, we plug the camera into Dad's laptop and we have photos in seconds. How did you make photos from your cameras?
Right, that is probably the most skillful bit, I would think, in photography at the time. Because you had a roll of film in the back of your camera, that film had to be developed. So a roll of film used to look like that. So when the film came out of there, you got all your photographs on there on a roll of film. So then the next step, I brought one of these on. That's a developing tank. So you take the film out of there. This is complete dark in a dark room, so all the lights off, no light at all. And you'd have to feed the film onto that and then wind it on So all the film then is wrapped around those little grooves in there. So then that will go in the tank, completely dark. Put that on the top. Make sure it's completely locked off. Then you can put the lights on, because that is in a nice black tank. There's no light going to get in there. So the next step would be to get your developer. Voila. So you fill that up with the developer, and then you would pour the developing solution into there. And as soon as you've done that, you've got one of these little things, which is a little, I used to call them a twiddler, and that you twiddle that round to make sure that there was no bubbles. You didn't want any air bubbles in there, otherwise it would leave specks on the film. Or the other way you could do it would be put that on, and you could pick the tank up and do that. Give it a shake. That would stay in there for about 7 minutes. Then you'd tip all that away, you'd put another chemical in, which was called a stop bath, which stopped it developing. Then you would tip that away, and you'd put another chemical in called a fixer, and that stopped the film developing and fixed it. So then, when you've done that, it's a bit different to putting it on a computer, just a bit. So then, you had to wash it. So that went in there, that went on the end of the tap, and all the water went in there and washed all the chemicals away. So when you've done that, you could actually open this, get that out, take your film off there and have a look at the negatives. And that was how you developed your film. And then from there, you have to put the negatives into a machine called an enlarger. And this is in the dark again. You project the light from the enlarger through the negative onto a piece of photographic paper, and then you do the same process again. You'd have to have a developer, the stop bath and the fixer, then you put the paper through all those, wash it at the end, and you'd end up with a photograph. So it was a really long process, and if you made one mistake along the way, that was everything gone. You couldn't retrieve it. You can't go back and do it again. So if you accidentally put the light on, or you put the wrong chemical in, that ruined, completely ruined. So you had to be absolutely spot on every time, every single time.
I would want to do that with my dad.
No, it's a little bit different now when you can just pop it on a screen, can't you?
Yeah.
Plug it into the computer, and then you can do whatever you want to do with it on the computer. So that was just to actually physically get from a film that was in the back of the camera, developing that, and then going through to developing the actual photograph in a dish of chemicals again, and then washing it, drying it, and then you ended up with a photograph. Yes, right sir, next question.
Even though our newspapers were in black and white, did you take colour photos or black and white ones?
We used to take the photographs in black and white. So we used black and white film, black and white developers, and the photograph was reproduced in black and white. Coloured pictures were around, but because the process was all black and white, and the printing process was black and white, you were better to have black and white pictures to start with, because a colour one sometimes went a bit flat and a bit not very bright. So yeah, we use black and white all the time. I've got some black and white pictures if you want to have a look. That's, if I can get that. It's this one I want. Right, so this is a newspaper from 1980, and I've marked a page there. You can see how big it was there. This is the size the papers were. There we go. So that's a sort of typical set of pictures that we would have taken. That's the mayor of the town at the time. He was signing an agreement with the twin town in Germany. So Tamworth is twinned with the town in Germany, and that was the actual time that they did it, in 1980. So all these photographs would have been taken in black and white, on black and white film, and developed, and then eventually a photograph would be reproduced in the paper. But they are all black and white. And lots of pages didn't have any pictures at all. Those are all, that's telling you what's on the clubs around the area. And adverts. So there were quite a lot of photographs in there, but they were all black and white. Then in 1993, Herald started publishing papers with just one page in colour. There we go. I think that is probably the very first one. It was October 1993, and that's the only colour picture on that day. Which all the other photographs again are in black and white. Inside, black and white again. So that one was the first black and white, first colour picture that we ever did. But then we were using colour film occasionally for special jobs like that one. But most of the time we're still doing black and white. So it wasn't until a long time later that we went over to colour completely.
So colour ones, so black and white ones would be the best in the older days?
Yes, for reproducing in the newspaper then, in sort of the 1960s, 70s, 80s, black and white photographs were the best for reproduction, yeah. And the black and white process.
How different do you think things are for professional photographers now with digital cameras than they were for photographers in the 90s, 60s, 70s and 80s?
How different? I think there is still, you've still got to have the skill to compose a picture. And professional photographers still work the same, really. But it's an advantage now to be able to see the picture straight away. There's none of this developing, which we used to have to do. So I suppose going back to when I started in photography, you had to be really skillful because you had to learn all the darkroom techniques, like developing pictures, printing the pictures, as well as setting the camera completely manually and focusing. Nowadays you've got, well, you know, with your camera you've got automatic focus.
Yeah.
Sets the exposure automatically. You can have a look on the back. So it's just made everything faster and easier, really, than in the old days.
Because if I was to do that, I would definitely mess it up.
Well, I had to train a long time. I had to work in the darkroom first and learn all that part of it, and then eventually I went out taking pictures at weddings, photographing people in the studio. So the actual photographing part of it came after learning all the developing. So it was a long time, really. You couldn't just pick a camera up and go click, click, click and look at it straight away. You had to do all this, and it had to have that absolutely spot on before you could go on to.
And then you would have, you would have to plug into your computer in those days.
We didn't have a computer then. This is it. I mean, you've got a computer built into that camera. That's what sets all things automatically. There's no computer in there. In fact, everything in that camera is completely, it's mechanical. Even just pressing the button. That's a mechanical operation. There's no electronics in there. So everything is completely different now. But it's made life a bit easier, I think, for photography. So you don't have to do that. And the chemicals used to smell horrible.
My mum wouldn't let me have that in the
No,
house.
you couldn't. No. You wouldn't want that in your bathroom. She'd be saying, "What's all these stains?"
She would, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And it used to stain. It used to stain your clothes. So I had to wear an apron Because if you splash the chemicals on you, it would eat into your clothes and you have all these horrible brown marks. Not very nice.
Do you think we have gone photo mad these days as cameras are everywhere and people are taking photos of lots of daft things like their dinner, their smelly socks, and to put on social media?
That's an easy question, yes. Yes, definitely. It's just too much now. Basically everybody's got a camera now. Because they're built into phones, everybody seems to have a mobile phone. And they do take pictures of their dinner, and they take pictures of like the cat upside down, and just why? Yeah, nothing wrong with taking pictures that you really like. If you like taking pictures of,
then that's fine with you.
like toadstools, or you want to get down low and take pictures of blades of grass, that's great.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. But when you start putting your smelly socks on the internet, yes.
Oh no, Dad!
Yeah.
I found something bad on social media.
It's a smelly sock.
I hope my mum doesn't go mad at that.
You'll be alright.
What was your first camera and what is your favourite one?
Oh, right. First camera. I think I was about 9 or 10, and I bought a little plastic camera from a shop called Woolworths and started taking a few pictures with that. They weren't very good because the camera wasn't very good anyway. But it was nice to be able to have a little camera of my own just to take pictures.
Yeah.
And then you had to send the picture off to the chemist, the film rather, off to the chemist, and then you get your pictures back in a little envelope. Oh, what's wrong with that? That's black. And, oh, that's not very good. But yeah, first camera was a little plastic one from Woolworths. First proper camera was when I was probably about 15. I had one for Christmas because I was interested
Just
in.
like this one?
Yeah, I was interested in taking pictures, but I was still at school then, so that was the first camera that was a useful camera that you could do things with.
And which one was your favourite?
Favourite? I don't think I've got a favourite. I suppose that's the sort of camera that I used the most during my career, and it did produce some really nice pictures.
What sort is that?
It's called a Mamiya. This is a 330 professional camera, and it took 12 pictures on a roll. So you get a roll of film like that. Let's see if I can remember how to open it. There we go. So there you go. So inside there, you would put the film in there, split that piece of paper, pull it across, put it into that little spool there, and then when you wound it round, like that, it wound the film around there. So when you got to, there was 2 little arrows, when they got to there, you shut the back up, wind it through, until it locked, and then you were ready to take the first picture. So, yeah, that was a sort of a standard picture for professional people to use then.
How many
So I suppose that's the favourite one. Really.
how many rolls did you have in the pack?
There was 5 in a box. So you got a box of 5. That's a typical box of the black and white film. We used to use that for taking pictures in the paper. It's Kodak film. So it had 5 rolls in there, so you'd have to keep quite a stock of film. That you'd be able to take out probably 10 rolls of film with you every day. You might use 5, you might use 3, it depended how busy you were. Yeah. You certainly didn't take lots and lots of pictures like you do with digital cameras. You used to take maybe 2 shots and you'd know that they were okay. Because it cost money to buy film, it cost money to process them, it cost money for the chemicals, it cost money for the photographic paper. So every time you press the button, you were spending money.
You know those rolls?
Yes.
Well, would you have to, like, make sure that they're like in place, otherwise.
Yeah, you had to make sure it was clipped in completely safely, and then when you wound it forward, you'd have to make sure that it was actually moving and it didn't flip off the little thing at the top. And when you shut the back, you had to make sure that it was actually going to move and lock into the right position. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't get any pictures. I've heard stories of photographers in the old days when they thought they'd put a film in the camera, and they actually hadn't put a film in. So they were taking pictures, clicking away, thinking they'd taken all these lovely pictures, and they'd open the back of the camera at the end and there was no film in there, because they'd forgotten to put the film in.
I bet they're expensive nowadays.
Oh, I've got a clue. You can still buy film, but I bet it is expensive. Yeah, I haven't bought one for years. But, because I've got a digital setup the same as you. Since 2000 was the first time we started using a digital camera. So that's been 18 years ago.
Is there a photo that you've taken and that you are most proud of?
Yeah. Somewhere there's a photograph. I had to think quite hard about this, but I think it's that one.
What do you like about that the most?
Well, it's the event was it was when Tamworth FC played at Wembley, and it was the old Wembley Stadium before they built the new one. And to actually get to play at Wembley was very special in those days for a team like Tamworth. And that was the only goal that they scored during that game at Wembley. So this gentleman here has just hit the ball, and these two defenders are desperately trying to stop him, and they're not managing to stop him. And the ball flew across here and went into the corner of the net. So that was the goal that Tamworth scored at Wembley. And I think mainly because we've got the crowd in the background and it says Wembley there, look, so it says, it sort of tells a story, if you like. It's at Wembley, there's a big crowd. There's the man called Martin Devaney, his name was, and he scored for Tamworth. They didn't actually win that game. They went to a replay and they won it on a replay. But they won the trophy, so they actually won what was called the FA Vase. So I think that's probably my favourite picture. And that came out of that camera.
How long was it ago that you took that photograph?
This one?
Yeah.
It was taken in 1989. Yeah. So they actually played at Wembley on the 6th of May 1989, so that's when that was taken. But I didn't get to develop the film for about 2 days because I stayed in London and took photographs on the way back, and I didn't get into my darkroom for about 2 days, so I didn't know I'd got that. I thought I'd got it, but it happens that fast. You press the button and you think, that should be a really good picture, but you can't see it.
No, because...
So 2 days. We had to wait 2 days before I could see that.
it's like your Christmas or your birthday. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And then you like open the present, but then you actually open the camera, and then you like have a look at the present, and then you have a look at.
Well, yeah. So that's like your present with a film in it, all developed. And you open that little lid, and out comes the film, and then you can sort of hold it like that and have a look, and you go, wow, that looks like a really good picture. So yeah, it's like Christmas. And it turned out to be quite a good picture. And of course that was, I haven't got a motor drive, it was, like you've got a motor drive,
Yeah.
and you can go, can't do that with this, you have to press the button, wind it on, before you can take another picture. So as that ball was coming across, I anticipated, took the picture, like that, and then I looked up, wound it on, and then took another one as he ran away. But he didn't run towards me to celebrate, he ran the other way.
Must be exhausting.
Otherwise I'd have got him doing this on the next picture.
Must be exhausting.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, instead of just like pressing a button and there you go.
Well, that's it, because it automatically just takes as many as you want, doesn't it? So if you think something like that, you could probably take 6 or 7 pictures of that. Just press your button down and go.
And also, you don't even know what your pictures are going to turn out like.
I haven't got a clue. I thought I'd captured that, but I didn't know for sure.
How big was your pictures, like, out of the...
Right, I did actually I brought a negative.
Did you?
Yeah, somewhere. Must be in here. Here we go. So yeah, well, if you look at that, that's that wide, and that's what the film looked like when it had been developed, and that's the same width. So that would all be rolled up in there, and that's 3 pictures of a baby, and that's the negative. So after you'd taken it out of there, that's what you got.
So, would you have to like let the sun come through to that because...
Well, no, not the sun. What we had was something called an enlarger. So it was a machine with a lamp on the top and then a lens, and you'd put that in between the lamp and the lens, and then again you'd have to focus that onto the piece of paper. So if that was a piece of paper, that would be projected, the light would shine through there onto the paper, and you'd only do that for 2 or 3 seconds. And then that had to go, because that was just a plain piece of photographic paper, and that would go into a dish of developer, and then you'd watch it slowly appear in the developer. And then once it was to the point where you'd got a nice black in it, and a nice white, and all the detail you wanted, and you'd pop it into the stop bath, stop it developing. It's basically, because you've got a negative, that's the opposite of what somebody looks like. So their face is like dark on there, isn't it? But it's actually light on the photograph, so it's an opposite, it's a negative. So by putting light through that, projecting it onto there, the dark bit would be light, and the light bits would be dark. Because the light bits let more light through.
But then the dark bits...
Then the dark bits don't let so much light through, so that's lighter on the picture. So that, like the football, is quite light, but that would be dark on the negative. And all this dark bits up here, that would be light on the negative, so there'd be more light coming through it, so that would make it darker on the picture.
And what advice would you give to new photographers?
What advice?
Yeah. Like if somebody's like just starting photography and they would like to, what advice would you give to them?
What, if they'd like to do that as a job? When they left school, do you think?
Well, I mean like...
Or just whatever?
Like random,
Yeah. I think just do what you want to do. It's like I said before, if you want to go and lie on the floor and take pictures of grass, really close up pictures of grass, or daisies or something, do that.
Or food.
Or if you want to photograph the dog, you know, if you want to go and get a really nice picture of the dog. Just anything really. As long as you like what you're doing. That's the main thing.
So just feel like whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
As long as you don't like take a picture of smelly stuff and put it on social
I
media.
don't want to do that. But I think the only thing would be you'd have to be careful if you were photographing people in the street, or some people just sit and take pictures of people without their permission. I don't think that's a good thing to do.
So the advice that you're giving is take pictures of whatever you want as long as they're not like that pictures.
Yeah, I think so. And take pictures of people, but ask the people if it's okay before you take a picture.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a picture of, say, I don't know, a man sitting on a bench, but he's sitting on the bench and then you've got a really nice view. But that makes the picture. You just pop over and say, excuse me, is it alright if I take a picture of you and I want this? And he says yes, that's fine. But if he said no, oh no, don't take a picture, then don't do that. Yeah, I'd still work for the Herald. Just do a little bit of work on a Saturday. In fact, there should be, if I have a look in last week's paper, there should be some pictures of mine. Oh, there you go. What's that say then?
After Stoneman's first country pictures. Oh, Paul Barber.
That's me. So this is last week's paper. And I went to a hockey match to take photographs, and those are my pictures in the paper this week. Well, last week. So I still do a little bit of photography, but not very often. I can say I'm retired, really. But I still enjoy taking pictures. So I'm lucky, really, that I've been able to do that all my life. From when I left school all the way through to now, I'm still taking photographs.
Is there anything else you would want to say?
Well, I know you're really keen on photography. I'll just carry on doing what you're doing. Just do more. Do this. You know, this is brilliant. You know. And if you want to get into doing videos or film, there are a lot of people that get into film work rather than just doing still pictures.
So don't be daft with cameras.
You know, you can do. There's lots of different parts of photography you can get into. You can even try and do some black and white pictures one day in a dark room.
How many times do you probably use that a year? Probably.
What, this one?
Yeah.
Never. Not now. When I was working, I used to use it every day. When we did pictures for the paper, every single day, including Sundays. We used to have to go out on Sundays, take pictures. So it was used every day. But since we went digital, it's not been used at all. It's just stayed in its little box.
Do you have any digital cameras?
Yeah, I've got digital cameras that I use. These pictures that were in the paper are taken on a Nikon digital camera. Yeah, like that, a single lens reflex with a telephoto lens on. So yeah, I've got a few lenses, and I've got a laptop computer that I put them on, and then I bring them into here, and they take them off my memory stick, and then they do what they want with them.
I just got one question. How to zoom in on that?
How do you zoom? You can't zoom. It's a fixed lens, right? So that's an 80mm. So you know a zoom goes from something like maybe 35mm to say 110 or something, or from 70mm to 300mm. This is just a fixed lens, so that when you're focusing, if you want to go closer to something, you have to walk closer. So if I'm taking a picture of you, like that, and I want to get a bit further back to get that bit in, I've got to go over here.
You'll have to go over.
Into the corner and do that. So I can't zoom in.
No.
Like camera that. So no, that's not a zoom. Fixed lens. And if you wanted to change your lens to something different, you have to unlock that, move that, take that off, and then you'd have another lens like that, which would be either a telephoto or a wide angle, and then you'd have to put that on carefully, make sure it was in place, put that down, and then lock it, and then you were ready to take pictures with the next one.
What happens if you accidentally buy like some sort of different lens and you put it you bash it in? Would it be like
If you didn't put it in properly, it might let light in past it. So if that wasn't actually locked on and sitting in there, that was a bit loose there, it might let light in, and that would completely ruin the negative. And if it's not locked in, you can't actually operate the camera until that's locked. You have to lock that, and then that's ready to operate. Then you can take a picture of it. But yeah, if that's unlocked, you can't press that, so it automatically stops you from taking a picture.
And then you'll know.
And then you'd know you haven't locked it. Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say?
Well, I think it's been very interesting talking to a young man,
Yeah.
and I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into what I used to have to do.
Well, not a little bit, a lot, to be honest.
Right from day one, working in a darkroom to now.
Thank you very much for your time today, for agreeing to do this, and I've really enjoyed it.
Good.
I've learned a lot.
I could go on for another hour at least telling you about darkroom. So, thank you. It's been great to meet you.
And I've learned a lot.
Good.
Thank you for coming
No,
today.
you're welcome, absolutely welcome.
I would just like to thank Mr. Paul Barber and the Tamworth Herald. I really enjoyed it and I appreciate their time today.